Hey everybody, and welcome back to my channel. Today's video is a book haul. I'm going to be talking about some books that I did receive for my birthday, some books that I bought for myself that I was really interested in. I did get 2 books from a publisher, so I also wanted to talk about those. I did want to go ahead and start this book haul with the books that were sent to me by the publisher. These were sent to me by charcopress, so thank you so much charcopress for sending these my way. If you don't know about charcopress, they focus on translated contemporary works, which is awesome because I like to read translated fiction and I am able to go ahead and pick up contemporary works by prominent and upcoming Latin American authors. They did send the Rooftop by Fernanda Trias my way, as well as Brickmakers by Selva Almada. Oh, by the way, in case I didn't mention, this isn't sponsored or anything like that. These were also both translated by Annie McDermott. And so let's start off with the Rooftop. It says, "The world is this house," says Clara, barricading herself inside a crumbling apartment with her father, baby, daughter Floor, and an ailing canary. Outside, she is convinced everyone is conspiring against them, but is she protecting her family or holding them hostage? And does the Rooftop offer a last silver of freedom? This one sounds super interesting. I wonder if it's actually a novella because I do believe it's only a little bit over 100 pages long. This is one that I will be reading before the end of the year just because it does sound so interesting, so I will keep you updated on how I like it. The next book is Brickmakers by Selva Almada, and this one says, "Two young men, Pájaro Tamay and Marciano Miranda, are dying in a deserted amusement park. The story begins almost at its end, just after the 2 main characters have faced off in a knife fight, the culmination of a rivalry that has pitted them against one another since childhood." I haven't read anything by Selva Almada yet, but I'm excited to pick this up and see if her works are for me. So those were the 2 books that were sent to me by publishers. I thought I'd go ahead and talk about the books that I picked up for myself before I get into the books that were sent to me by some lovely friends here on BookTube. The first one that I wanted to talk about is actually one that I got while I was in Southern California. While I was down there, I went to LACMA, which is the Los Angeles County Museum of Art, I believe. Yes, I think that's what it is. So while I was there was an exhibition by a Japanese artist called Yoshitomo Nara, and I ended up falling in love with Nara's paintings and illustrations. So I did pick up this book by him that has some of his works. Parts of it are in Japanese, so I'll have to learn Japanese in order to go ahead and read this. But there are parts in English, which is kind of nice. And then it's just a small collection of some of his work. I feel like these are very much the things that I like. They're like a little bit creepy and weird, and like they have an air of something isn't right here, just slightly uncomfortable that it makes you want to look at it, but not uncomfortable enough that you want to look away. Really liked his stuff, and I think I want to get some prints by him later on and just put them up around the office because I think it would be great. The next book that I ended up picking up for myself is called The Posthumous Memoirs of Brás, Cubas, and this is by Machado de Assis. Machado de Assis is a really prominent Brazilian author. I realized at some point that a lot of the translated fiction that I read from Latin America tends to be by Argentinian authors or authors from Uruguay, Mexico, but I hadn't really read anything by an author who was Brazilian, and so I really wanted to go ahead and pick something up. I did decide to go with this. This is a classic. In his masterpiece, the 1881 novel The Posthumous Memoirs of Brás, Cubas, the ghost of a decadent and disagreeable aristocrat decides to write his memoir. He dedicates it to the worms gnawing at his corpse, and the 160 brief chapters tells of his failed romances and half-hearted political ambitions, serves up harebrained philosophies, and complains with gusto from the depths of his grave. So I really don't know what I'm getting myself into, but it did sound like it's going to be spooky. It might have some element of magical realism, and I'm just really excited to try works by more Brazilian authors. I know that the go-to Brazilian author that a lot of people go to is Paulo Coelho, I believe that's his name, and I haven't read anything by him either, and I will eventually read something by him, but I did want to pick up something by Machado first and see how I like it. The next 2 books that I ended up picking up were also classics. I don't know what got into me, but I'm suddenly in a classics type of mood. I also realized that a lot of the classics that I have read, especially in school, because of school, were English and British classics, and I really want to read more classics from other countries. So the next 2 that I picked up are actually Chinese classics. classics. The first one is called The Journey to the West, and this is translated and edited by Anthony C.U. Another reason that I also wanted to pick up classics from other countries is because I do love translated fiction, and I do think it's important for me to go back and read some of the classics. I know very little about Journey to the West, but I know that it is considered one of the like big classics in China, so I definitely wanted to pick it up and read it. The Journey to the West tells the story of the 14-year pilgrimage of the monk Zhuxing, one of China's most famous religious heroes, and his 4 supernatural disciples in search of Buddhist scriptures. Throughout his journey, Zhuxing fights the demons who wish to eat him, communes with spirits, and traverses a land riddled with a multitude of obstacles, both real and fantastical. An adventure rich with danger and excitement, the seminal work of the Chinese literature canon is by turns allegory, satire, and fantasy. So not only does it have satire and fantastical elements, it's also a classic. So really looking forward to reading Journey to the West. The next book on this list is another Chinese classic. It's really funny because, okay, when I was looking for physical books for this book, they were all super expensive. They were like upwards of $50. And I didn't know if I was going to like it and didn't know if I wanted to spend more than $50 on a physical copy of a book. I feel bad purchasing a new hardback because it's $30. So I did find a copy of this classic that was like $20, but this is The Dream of Red Chamber by Xuěqín. The image is like highly pixelated. This looks literally like a textbook. It's kind of funny and comical, but you know what? It is what it is. And if I really like it, I'll pick up a different copy. So this says, Dream of Red Chamber is also called The Story of the Stone, and it is one of China's 4 great classical novels. It was written sometime in the middle of the 18th century during the Qing dynasty. Long considered a masterpiece of Chinese literature, the novel is generally acknowledged to be the pinnacle of Chinese fiction. Since this is considered the pinnacle of Chinese fiction, I will probably read this one before I read The Journey to the West and see how I like it. The next few books on this list are going to be books that were graciously gifted to me for my birthday, so thank you so much if you were someone that sent these books to me. I do want to make it a priority to read these books within the next couple of months. I will prioritize these within the next 2 or 3 months to make sure that I am reading books that were gifted to me, so thank you so much. The first one of those is Ray Bear by Jordan Fueko. This was gifted to me by Benedict, who is my fiance. Thank you, Ben. And this is a young adult fantasy novel, if I'm not mistaken. I don't really know much about it, but it's one that I have seen around and I've been really interested to pick up. And so it says, Tarasai has always longed for the warmth of a family. She was raised in isolation by a mysterious, often absent mother known only as the Lady. When Tarasai comes of age, the Lady sends her to the capital of the global empire of Aritsar to compete with other children to be chosen as one of the Crown Prince's Council of 11. If she's picked, she'll be joined with other council members through the Ray, a bond deeper than blood. That closeness is irresistible to Tarasai, but the Lady has other ideas, including a magical wish that Tarasai is compelled to obey. Kill the Crown Prince once she gains his trust. Tarasai won't stand by and become someone's pawn, but is she strong enough to choose a different path for herself? Oh, just based on that synopsis, I am already super intrigued. It sounds so good. Lately, I've been reading a lot more young adult fiction, specifically young adult fantasy, and I've been really enjoying it, so I can't wait to go ahead and pick this one up soon. This next one was sent to me kindly by Joanna here on YouTube. She is amazing, so please do go check out her channel. So she did send to me Love and Other Thought Experiments by Sophie Ward. This was longlisted for the 2020 Booker Prize. I actually really do like to read books that were longlisted, shortlisted, or won either the Booker Prize or the International Booker Prize. I love books that are constantly pushing boundaries and experimenting with different formats and stuff like that, so I think this is going to be right up my alley, and it's one that I've actually been eyeing for a very long time. This says, Rachel and Eliza are planning their future together. One night in bed, Rachel wakes up terrified and tells Eliza that an ant has crawled into her eye and is stuck there. Eliza, a scientist, is skeptical. Suddenly, their entire relationship is called into question. What follows is a uniquely imaginative sequence of interlinked stories ranging across time, place, and perspective to form a sparkling philosophical tale of love, lost, and found across the universe. Hi, hello. So my camera died, fully charged now. So if it is a little bit darker, that is the reason why. It's going to the point where the sun is really setting around 5 p.m. here in Oregon, so we don't have that much light left in the day. So let's just go ahead and continue. The next book that was sent to me by Nicole from Bonbon Read. Thank you so much for sending this to me. I don't know if you've read it yet, but I would love to buddy read it with you. This is one that I've actually been meaning to pick up for a very, very long time. It's one that I actually hear people just absolutely love it, and I think it's perfect for the winter season. So let me know if you want to buddy read it. And this is The Bear and the Nightingale by Catherine Arden. All that I really know is that it's a Russian-inspired fantasy series. So it says, winter lasts most of the year at the edge of the Russian wilderness, and in the long nights, Vasilisa and her siblings love to gather by the fire to listen to their nurse's fairy tales. Above all, Vasya loves the story of Frost, the blue-eyed winter demon. Wise Russians fear him, for he claims unwary souls, and they honor the spirits that protect their homes from evil. Then Vasya's widowed father brings home a new wife from Moscow, fiercely devout. Vasya's stepmother forbids her family from honoring their household spirits, but Vasya fears what this may bring, and indeed misfortune begins to stalk the village. But Vasya's stepmother only grows harsher, determined to remake the village to her liking. As the village's defenses weaken and evil from the forest creeps near, Vasilisa must call upon dangerous gifts she has concealed to protect her family from a threat sprung to life from her nurse's most frightening tales. Sounds so good. Like, just looking at this cover already, it's giving me winter vibes. The next book on this list was gifted to me by Ben's brother, Julian. He doesn't really have any social media, so thanks, Julian. I don't know if you're ever gonna see this. He did send me Dahlgreen by Samuel R. Delaney. I believe this is a classic science fiction book. I hadn't actually heard about it before he sent it to me, so thank you so much. Sci-fi is one of my favorite genres, so I can't wait to read more classics within the sci-fi genre in general. So this says, Bologna is a city at the dead center of the United States. Something has happened there. The population has fled. Madmen and criminals wander the streets. Strange portents appear in the cloud-covered sky. In this disaster zone comes a young man, a poet, lover, and adventurer, known only as the Kid. Tackling questions of race, gender, and sexuality, Dahlgren is a literary marvel and groundbreaking work of American magical realism. Sounds right up my alley. I love science fiction books with magical realism, especially when they're thematic books that cover race, gender, etc. Really excited to read this one and see how it holds up to modern standards, because I do believe it was written back in the 70s. The next book on this list was sent to me by the lovely Naomi from Naomi's Library. This is a science fiction novella, and it's one that I've also seen is very widely loved and very popular, but one that I was actually a little bit hesitant to jump into just because I have heard some negative reviews. But I'm excited to finally have it and form my own opinions. Now that I've actually have the physical copy and read the synopsis in the back, I feel like it's going to be more up my alley, so I do think that I'll end up liking it, but only time will tell. So the book is This Is How You Lose the Time War, and it says, in the ashes of a dying world, Red finds a letter marked burn before reading. So begins an unlikely correspondence between two rival agents in a war that stretches through the vast reaches of time and space. Red belongs to the agency, a post-singularity technotopia. Blue belongs to Garden, a single vast consciousness embodied in all organic matter. Their past are bloody and their futures mutually exclusive. They have nothing in common save that they're the best and they're alone. Now, what began as a battlefield boast grows into a dangerous game. One both Red and Blue are determined to win, because winning is what you do in a war, isn't it? The next 3 books on this list were sent to me by the lovely Charmaine from Traveling Through Books, so thank you so much. I'm going to start off with the one that I'm most excited to read, and that is The Silence of Bones by June I believe this is the author of The Forest of Stolen Girls. I think that's what it's called. I actually first saw that one and I was really intrigued, and then Charmaine's in this one and I'm just really excited to read it because she really enjoyed it. Homesick and orphaned 16-year-old soul is living out the ancient curse. May you live in interesting times. Indentured to the police bureau, she's been tasked with assisting a well-respected young inspector with a politically charged investigation into the murder of a noble woman. As they delve deeper into the dead woman's secrets, Soul forms an unlikely bond of friendship with the inspector, but her loyalty is tested when he becomes the prime suspect, and Soul may be the only one capable of discovering what truly happened on the night of the murder. But in the land where silence and obedience are valued above all else, curiosity can be deadly. This is probably the first one that I will be picking up first from all of the books today. Well, there might be another one that I might pick up before then. So super excited to start this one. I love mysteries. The next book that she sent my way is This Is My America by Kim Johnson. This is a young adult contemporary novel, I believe. And look at this beautiful cover. I love it. I'm in love with this. It's so pretty. This one says, Every week, 17-year-old Tracy Beaumont writes letters to Innocent's ex, asking the organization to help her father, an innocent black man on death row. After 7 years, Tracy is running out of time. Her dad has only 275 days left. Then one night changes everything. The police arrive, pounding on the door, and Tracy's older brother, Jamal, goes from being a bright, promising track star to a thug on the run, accused of killing a white girl. Determined to save her brother, Tracy investigates what really happened between Jamal and Angela down at the bike. And as Tracy discovers the racist history that haunts her small town's present, she begins to wonder whether she's the lightning torch that will illuminate her family's innocence, or the lightning fuse that will cause her world to explode. I'm also very excited to go ahead and pick up This Is My America. It seems like this is one that's going to take a look at America's judicial system and how unfair it is, how biased it is, and just honestly how racist it is. So I will let you know how this one goes, because it does cover very important topics and I want to see how the author handles them and weaves a narrative. So excited for this one, and again, I love the cover. The last book that Charmaine ended up getting me is The Angel's Game by Carlos Ruiz Zafón. And Carlos Ruiz Zafón is the author of The Shadow of the Wind. I believe there's actually 4 novels in that series, although I don't know if it's a series, one that you have to read one after the other, or if it's more of a companion series where you can read the books in separate orders. I still haven't read The Shadow of the Wind, so I don't know. If you do know, let me know. But once I do pick up The Shadow of the Wind, I will definitely jump right into this one. And so this says, at the beginning of this powerful labyrinthian thriller, David Martin, a pulp fiction writer struggling to stay afloat, is holed up in an abandoned mansion in the heart of Barcelona, furiously tapping out story after story, becoming increasingly desperate and frustrated. When he is approached by a mysterious publisher offering a book deal that almost seems too good to be real, David leaps at the chance, but as he begins to work, and after a visit to the cemetery of forgotten books, he realizes that there is a connection between his book and the shadows that surround his dilapidated home, and that the publisher may be hiding a few troubling secrets of his own. So it seems like it's not a direct sequel to The Shadow of the Wind, but you might want to read that one to get a little bit more information about the Cemetery of Forgotten Books. I will probably read The Shadow of the Wind first before jumping into this one. I also just really love how floppy this is. It's so nice. Okay, we're almost done. The last book that was sent to me was by the lovely Savannah from Riveting Reads. Thank you. And this is The Southern Book Club's Guide to Slaying Vampires by Grady Hendrix. This is one of her favorite books of all time. So I actually just finished my first book by Grady Hendrix. It was my best friend's exorcism, and I didn't have the best luck with it. I gave it a 2 out of 5 stars. I'll definitely talk more about that during my November wrap up. So I am interested to see if other works by him work for me, or if it was just my best friend's exorcism. I do believe that Grady Hendrix is also a screenwriter, and I honestly felt like my best friend's exorcism would have been better suited as a screenplay or as a movie rather than a book. And even though it was entertaining enough, by the end of it I was just so exhausted from listening to it, if that makes sense, because there's a bunch of 80s references that I wasn't understanding, and maybe I wasn't the target audience for that just because I am a 90s baby and I'm not necessarily obsessed with 80s culture. So it was a miss for me, unfortunately. Like I mentioned, I will talk a little bit more about it during my November wrap up, but I'm interested to see if I like this one. This was the other book that I was talking about earlier that I might pick up immediately. It's going to be one of these two for sure. So those were all of the books that I either bought or were sent to me. Again, if you did send me a book, thank you so much for thinking of me and for sending a book my way. I really appreciate you, and I will make sure to go ahead and read these books within the next 2 or 3 months. So stay tuned for my thoughts on them. If you've made it this far, leave an emoji down below of a fallen leaf or a tree or something that's nature related, since I didn't film outside today. Thank you for watching, and I will see you on the next one. Bye!